Well, here we go. Welcome back to another episode of Can I Have a Word with You? Bruce Pulver and Heather Carter. We just sit down, we unpack a word. We love words, we're freaks about words. We don't do crossword puzzles, but we kind of look at words differently and we say, hey, what does that word really mean? And how can we use that word to improve our day, to work on relationships, to work on our business, to strengthen our faith? And just it's been such a joy. We're entering year number 2 now of our podcast, Heather, and we're going to unpack a fun word
Mhm.
today. So, how are things in your world?
Oh, well, they're great today. I think I told you or that my son's getting married soon, and so he just got back here from California with his fiance. I picked him up in St. Louis last night, so it's about a time we got home, a 3-hour drive home, and then we left her at her house, which is about 45 minutes away, and then we brought him home. So he came to my house. Well, he's from California, so it's 2 hours earlier there. So we got home at 10:30, but he's kind of ready to keep going. So I ended up sitting outside with him and visiting and catching up with just and I, which is great. And so I wasn't willing to say I'm tired, I have a podcast or anything that I have to do in the morning. So we stayed up till 1:30 in the morning. So I am not quite ready. I like I said, I'm ready from my in my head, from my face up and in my head, but the rest of me is still kind of dragging.
Well, first of all, congratulations on the pending wedding. I'm sure it's great to have everybody in town and just the
Hmm.
excitement and the joy. And yes, in fact, you heard Heather say it a couple of times. She said, "I'm ready. I'm ready from neck up. I'm not sure I'm ready for the wedding, but we're going to unpack the word ready today. So ready or
Hmm.
not, God, that word can mean a lot of things, can it? Prepared, um, enough. Have I packed everything? Am I? Is it,
Hmm.
it's time to go to the airport? Do I have what I need? So, what's on your heart right now with the word ready?
Well, so here's the thing. Yeah, we talked about potentially doing this word, so it's been on my mind, and I think the first thing that came to my mind was the scripture, and I just looked it up so I could have the reference for it. But is the be ready, always be ready to give an answer for you and the hope that you believe,
Yeah.
and be ready. The scripture while you're chatting earlier. Oh, here it is. First Peter 3:15.
Okay.
Always give an answer. Be ready to give an answer when anyone asks to give the reason for the hope that you have, but do this with gentleness and respect. So I thought that would be interesting to at least part of the time talk about what does that look like, because I know what I used to think it meant, and now after living life for a while and going through some stuff, and developing a strong with Jesus, I have a totally different answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
So,
want me to tell it to you?
yeah, tell me. Go. And then I've got a verse that I thought of as well. So, we'll compare and contrast. So, go right ahead.
Well, I used to think it meant that always being ready meant that we better be well studied, and I don't think that those things are bad. I went to Bible college, but it used to be very intimidating to me, and I was kind of terrified for the day when someone would ask me to give an answer for the hope that I believed, because I felt like I had to have an outline and some bullet points and a real conclusion to like drive it home for them so that they would understand and love God. So it made me kind of afraid. I kind of avoided that topic a little bit. And now I think, you've heard the Sunday school joke of, what's brown and has a fuzzy tail and collects nuts. And the little Sunday school boy says, well, I know the answer is supposed to be Jesus, but it sounds like a squirrel to me. Like the answer is always Jesus. It's always Jesus. And what I found is that is the answer. The answer is, how has Jesus changed your life? How are you letting him affect how you do life? That's the only answer. There's no, Later you can look up some scripture or Google some scripture if you need to, but the answer is Jesus. And it's that simple. So nobody has to study to say, well, all I know is I was blind, but now I see. I was lame, but now I can walk. I was a hot mess of anxiety, but now I turn it over to God and he gives me peace.
Yeah.
So always being ready. I'm always ready. So that's been what I've been thinking about.
Wow. How has he impacted me? That's the answer to that question of being ready. I thought about it a couple ways too. Ready doesn't necessarily mean you've got all your stuff in your mess kit organized correctly and you're like so prepared. You've studied for, you're going to go climb a mountain, right? And it's going to be isolated and you've got everything in your backpack and you've prepared and planned for everything. I agree with you that is a little bit of an over expectation of ourselves, but being available, I think, has a lot to do with that as well. I've found in my life many times I've been asked to step into something and asked God to come with me and go ahead of me, which I know he has already done, but asked him to reveal himself in that situation. Like, I want to be available, ready, on the ready. Like, I think of the athletes who are in the ready position to deal with maybe in defense on basketball. There's that position you're in to play defense, or ready in the batter's box and what your routine is. So it's not necessarily having everything in your life together as much as it is knowing and accepting and wanting him in our lives so that he knows we're ready. He gives us what we need when we need it. I fell back on Luke 12:35, which was about the master coming back from travels or a wedding or from somewhere, and it says, "Keep your lamps burning and get ready." So be ready and keep your lamps burning means you're in that position to be used because you're available and willing, and that takes some practice. It takes putting yourself in those situations where you can be used, and ready is almost like aware.
Yes, it's anticipating that what you need to be ready for is coming. To live. I've talked about this when I do my soul selfie soirees about turning our minutia into Maranatha, into come Lord. And part of that is that we live with a sense of anticipation of looking for ways to use and share the things we've been learning and understanding and experiencing with God. We're always looking for someone to give hope to. And so you do live with a different sense of anticipation. If you're ready for the race, you're kind of like, or like the horses, think of that. I think of that. We just had the derbies, the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness and stuff. And those horses are just like crazy in their stalls, ready to go. And that's, if we can, in a calm way, be like that, where there's this anticipation of what surprises is God going to put in front of me today, to wait with anticipation.
Right. Oh, I love what you said too about not just jumping out of the blocks, because there may be a situation where you feel called to help someone in a tough situation, and it might just be listen. Might just be listen first. So
keep your mouth shut.
Right.
Yeah, I tend to be like, I actually probably struggle with the opposite now that I have found that answer to the hope that I believe in, how to share it. I have to be like, Heather, you don't have to say it to everyone every time there's an opportunity. You just need to, ask God first if for the timing and the words, and try not to just spew it on everybody just because they are walking around on the planet. Tend to.
No, that's so true, because he also uses us differently. He allows us to get in where we fit in, and how you're going to be able to be there for someone and I'm going to be able to be there for someone are going to be very different. So I mean, it's almost like read the room. My wife says that all the time. Bruce, read the room. Like, okay, I blew that one again.
This is what you're doing. This is what I want you to do.
Are you still talking? I get that from her a lot. Well deserved.
Well, I think I told you one time that my daughter told me she was like 3, and I was talking to someone. I must have been talking and talking. I was with a friend. We were at my dining room table, and she was maybe 3 years old. And she was playing with her dolls, and finally she looks up at me and she goes, "No, Mom, play the quiet game by yourself." You tell your kids, like, just play the quiet game. She's like, "Play the quiet game by yourself." Like, in other words, you're talking a lot and your friend's not talking. Read the room, so.
Oh, that is great. And it's you think about it. I use so many different analogies about it. It's not necessarily reacting. Oftentimes, it's responding, and that takes that pause. A response sometimes takes that moment, catch a little moment, a calm, CALM perspective that can allow us to step in and being aware of what someone might need. And like you said, they might need silence from you. They might need an arm around them. They may need help with a bag of groceries or shopping bags just to help. And it's not always that action. It's not always in your face. So being ready. So what is it? What's the joke? Sometimes ready, fire, aim. We don't want to be that. We don't want to be ready, aim, and then fire. So
yeah,
I broke down ready. You want to go through that real quick?
Yes. Well, I had a thought, and if I don't say it really quick, I'm gonna forget it. Hold on a second. What was it? Oh, well, yeah. Why don't you go through yours, and then I can remember it. I think I'm gonna work on remembering it.
Okay.
You go first.
You
go first.
I'll go first this time. Okay. We write a word vertically. We kind of unpack it, and I'm going to put it in the show notes, which we always do as we publish these, and it'll be out on midnight on Monday night. So first thing Tuesday morning, folks can see this. That's when we drop these every day. So the R for ready to go vertically was rehearse, repeat, repeat. As a musician, as an athlete, in presentations, in communication, the rehearsal part is important, not to get it perfect. What is it? Amateurs practice to get it right. Professionals practice to never get it wrong. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to be professionals at this, but being rehearse, repeat, repeat. The E is ever mindful and aware. I think that gets back to reading the room. Ever mindful and aware of kind of what's around us. Like, how do you get ready? You get ready because sometimes you have to change in the middle of where you think you're ready. It calls for a different response, a different interaction, a different engagement. The A is attention paid continuously. Be where your feet are. Like, really pay attention versus, hey, I'm thinking about something that happened yesterday or thinking about something that could be there in an hour. It's like, be present would be the attention paid continuously. The D is daily getting better. I think us being prepared and us getting ready is a process that God works on us every day. He puts us through situations so that we can use that situation to be more prepared when it comes and more ready to serving others and serving Him and becoming the person He intends us to be. And then the Y is you'll be ready for the call if you do these things. So I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, you can see me just waiting to answer something on that. So the last two are kind of go together, but that's what I was thinking was, so in one of the talks I do at my soirees is on trauma and how to be prepared for trauma, because trauma is coming. It's always, there's always things that are going to come up, and that's the stinky part of trauma is it's usually abrupt. When I got leukemia, got blood work at 11 in the morning and was in the hospital for 30 days by 5 o'clock that same day. That's abrupt, and so I talk about that and how did I handle that? Why did I start writing a blog, which turned into a couple books? I didn't start preparing for that trauma when I got to the hospital. I'd been inadvertently preparing for that for years because of the time I'd spent with God in the mornings and at church and at, all the ways that I'd been building my relationship with God more intimately over the years. It prepared me for when I got there. I didn't show up to run a marathon and think I could do it without having trained for any of it. So my point for them was is to cultivate this relationship with God before the trauma comes. And Oswald Chambers has a great quote. He said, a lot of people think that, I'm not going to quote it like he does because I don't have my book in front of me, but basically people think that they'll say, well, I'm not going to pray and do all the things just now, but when the trials come, when the trauma comes, then I'll go and then I'll be ready. And he basically says, no, you will not. Trying to do that is like trying to produce the munitions of war in the trenches. You will die while doing it. Yeah. Like it's not that it's not going to work. God gives special graces to people who haven't spent any time with him and have been running from him for sure when the trauma comes. I'm not saying he won't be there, but your heart and the trust factor that you're going to have when those trials come will be there for you almost immediately if you've been training and if you're ready for it, because you've spent time ahead going into it. You're prepared. Yeah. You're not trying to figure out where to get your weapons when the trial comes. You're stocked. You're ready. Everything's loaded. You're ready to go.
Wow. So let me put that a little bit. Because I don't believe when my BAM moment happened, which launched my writing, my book, those things, which was, being eliminated from a position in a company with 500 other people in the same day, that I had necessarily prepared at all for a walk to be ready for that. Mm-hmm. But as I look back at it, right, you can kind of do the postmortem of that. The way that he had been preparing me through being raised with a family of gratitude and being raised by a father who just loved just loved words, loved the meaning of things. Mm-hmm. That to me kind of forged it together. That took the nut and bolt and just tied it together, just locked it down. That he gave me that ability to start combining the gratitude and the writing. So it was really a launching point for me. So I totally see where, in your faith keeps moving, it keeps growing. Then you deal with a thing that's where you can't develop character during tough times. Tough times mm-hmm. reveal the character that you've been developing. I would say for mm-hmm. me, I had some catch-up work to do because I didn't mm-hmm. know how to deal. I didn't have that path. And then all of a sudden, he starts revealing that this is a gift that he needs me to continue to accept because it can continue to help me get through something. So a little bit different maybe, but so I think that preparing is to getting ready. I think the grace was given to me, like you said, in that moment of I'm going to give you a way to deal with a troubling situation, not draw on the things that you have already been working on. So just a little contrast maybe in how those two situations, very mm-hmm. different in like physical, emotional kind of impact, but life-changing for both of us.
Mm-hmm. I love the idea of ready because like I think you were saying earlier, it's ready or not. Ready or not, life is coming. Ooh, I'm going to write a blog about that because I've written one called Life Is. Like, I know people say have the t-shirts, life is good, but sometimes life is disappointing, life is boring, life is frustrating, but really, truly, life just is. And ready or not, here it comes. So you can either go through what you go through with God's help. That's what I always say to people. Well, I don't know, but life's coming and you can either go through it with God or you can go through it without him. It's coming to you, whether you believe in Jesus or not. bad things happen to bad people, or good things happen to bad people, and bad things happen to good people. That's just life. So who you go with it through, not even how you go with it, but who you're going to go with it through. And, ready or not, here life comes.
Yeah.
Who are you going to do it with? You're going to be on your own and anxious and stressed and fearful, or are you going to trust God's got a plan and he's can give you peace and serenity?
That doesn't mean the tough
Good word,
times
Bruce.
go away.
Thanks for picking this word. This is a great word. I never really thought about this word before, probably because I feel not ready most of the time. And that's the thing, is that whether or not you're ready, you often have to move forward. A friend of mine, I always say, like, I don't want to do that. I'm scared. I don't want to make that phone call. And she said, then do it afraid. Sometimes we aren't ready, but that just really doesn't matter. We have to move forward sometimes, whether we feel ready or not. So the only control we have in that piece is to do the best we can to get ready daily so that we can be ready for the bigger things. That's the only piece we can, manipulate in that scenario, is to get ourselves ready for whatever it is.
Right. Yeah. So someone changed the old saying on me recently. It was a dear friend, a public speaking friend that mentors me. He said, let's avoid saying fake it until we make it. Let's say tweak it until we peak it. Meaning keep working on ourselves, keep working on getting ready. There is no end game to ready. Ready continues to be a journey. I think those two things could probably go together. Is we just the readiness comes in continuing to move, taking action, doing things that when we're scared, right, and stepping. And those are hard things, right? I mean, but we always talk on this show about the easy things have already been done. We have to do hard things in order to grow. And when we do hard things become easier to do.
I was just thinking, a couple days ago at my office, we did a training. We had a lady named Renee Funk come in. She has a big real estate agency in Orlando, and we flew her in, and she did a training all day for us. And one of the things that she said, that stuck out in my head, was, she said, when you go into a listing appointment, I'm a real estate agent, so when you go into a house and you're going to talk to the sellers about listing their home, she said, that is not the time for you to brag on how much your team sells or how much you sell or how you're, go in trying to be impressive. She said, they've probably already Googled you. They looked up stuff on you. You're there to listen to them. What do they want? Where are they going? How do they want this to play out? What are their preferences? And you're listening to them and learning about them and learning about their house and putting the client first. But the phrase she said was, I'm not going to say it exactly right, but basically she said, the flexing comes before you get there. So your office has social media sites and impressive Facebook posts and all the things that go ahead, and your statistics about your sales. Those are what you do before you get there. You flex before you get there. And when you get there, then you're just there for them. And you're not trying to put it back on you. But I like the idea of, like, your flexing comes beforehand, so that's kind of about being ready. You do the flexing ahead of time so that when you get in the situation, you can engage with the person and be present and listen. And I love that image of real estate, as opposed to coming in and, look how awesome we are. So
yeah, you're right, because you wouldn't be in there if they hadn't already asked you to come. So part of that preparation that goes before you're preparing. It's sort of like the rehearsals before a big performance on stage. Yes, you have the dress rehearsal, but you usually only have one of those. The rest of the time, you're putting the work in to, whether it's a vocal thing, to learn the scales or learn the melodies and the harmony. And folks are already buying the ticket because they want to see the performance, right? And you're there to, in your case, listen. What makes a good transaction for you? or
Mhm.
walking into that difficult situation where someone may have lost a loved one. The
Mhm.
last thing you want to say is, I've lost 6. I'm really good at this. Right? You kind of,
Yeah, like, here's my statistics,
yeah,
yeah.
right. Here's the number of times but you just being available and walking in, and the readiness comes from building your foundation, building your
Mhm.
relationships. Who are you surrounding yourself with that helps you become all that God has intended you to be along the journey? And it's a
Mm.
readiness, constantly working to become more ready in new
We
situations.
that's a good point, and we should probably wrap this up because they're going a long time, but this is such a good word. But I was thinking it'd be a good, I don't know what the word will be, but we should do a future word that will allow us to kind of talk about some of the groups that we meet with. And I know you specifically have, or you have one specific group you meet with, and then I'm sure more. And I have a few different accountability slash mentor kind of relationships and who you surround yourself with. So that let's think of a good word for that and do
Yeah,
that in the future.
we'll do that. We'll tease that one out. Maybe, yeah,
And then we can bring all those people and force them to be on our podcast.
well, if you ask them, it's no force. They all want to come on. And it's been fun to have, we will wrap this up. It's been fun to have one full year. We've done a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these together. We've each done one solo, and we've invited different guests on and helped them unpack, the power of their word. What
Mm-hmm.
word is their, jet fuel to life, or something they go to when they need to pause or calm down. Because it's not always about, lifting energy. Sometimes it's about stepping out so that we can work on getting a little more ready, a little
Mm-hmm.
readiness in our day. So Heather, let's wrap this up. It's such a great, just a great conversation, unpacking the word ready. So I put the verse that inspired me for ready, which is Luke 12:35, and yours was First Peter 3:15. So we'll drop that one in the show notes as well, so folks can go
Mm-hmm.
look at that and maybe get some good inspiration from both of those verses.
Mm-hmm. And I do want to mention, Bruce has a book and does speaking around the country. Both of us do that. So check out our websites, Bruce Pulver.
Love the chatter,
I
ourwordsmatter.com.
keep wanting to say, can I have a word with you? Like, that's just one nuance of Bruce, people. He's in Above the Chatter, Our Words Matter. And I have Soul Selfie and Soul Selfie hashtag no filter. But also, I didn't mention this to you, Bruce. My book called Embracing the Impact of Cancer is coming out. Actually, I think you can order on Amazon right now. I got a link last night for that, and it was number 4 for new releases on Amazon as of last night. So I haven't checked it today, but it's
Fantastic. So
a book
give me the name
that
of
is
it again.
15 stories
Give us the name again
embracing the impact embracing the impact of cancer,
at
and
Amazon.
it's
And give us
stories
a
of
little bit
hope
about
and
how it
healing.
works.
So it's 15 different stories about people who are either cancer survivors, people who are on the other side of cancer, some of the authors are still battling their cancer and probably will be for their whole life. And some are writing on behalf of loved ones. My mother-in-law did one in talking about how God showed up, and while my father-in-law was battling cancer and he passed away. So she's writing kind of for both of them. So there's those kinds of stories. And it's designed as a tool to not only encourage um, you as you're reading, but to, keep a stack of them for every day we hear of someone who has cancer. So if you can just drop them a book and to say, I hope this encourages you. And these are actual people who have had cancer. It's not like me who hasn't had it trying to tell you it's going to be fine. It's going to
Yeah.
be okay. It's real people with real grueling stories about their cancer journey, but who have managed to embrace the impact of it. Cancer is bad. It will never be good. But God can use bad things for good things if we allow him to do that. And that's what the intention of this book is. So
I love
get
that.
on
So
Amazon and grab a copy or several to pass out to people who are struggling with that. So I'm
So
excited.
here's what we'll do. So at Above the Chatter, Bruce Pulver on Instagram and Facebook, and then on your social media pages outside of websites and
Mhm.
outside of the podcast, we'll put a lot of that information out so folks can find out how to reach you, find out how to find the book, And if they want to share it, if they want to have it in a community, if they say they want to make a donation of the book to a cancer center or a hospital, the reading room, etc., we'll make sure that link is out there. And what an amazing project! And thank you for doing that. Finding some folks who really wanted to tell their story to help others.
Yeah, and we can talk about this maybe more on the next one, but all the proceeds do go to Christy Morrow's organization
Caring
that you
Ways?
connected with. Yes, Caring Ways. Thank you. And they are organization. It's sort of like GoFundMe, but specifically for cancer. And I think they're opening a branch for even addiction to help fund some of the treatments that people need when they can't do it. And so the proceeds for the book will go back to that organization. So
that's called Caring Ways, caringways.org. We're going to ask Christy if she'll come on as a guest.
Yes.
Talk about
and Ron wrote a story in the book that her partner, Ron with 2 N's,
the co-founder of her program. Yeah, amazing. Wow. We just unpacked a bunch of other stuff here. So stay tuned, folks. This book's coming out. We want to tell you more about Caring Ways. What a great organization of helping folks find financial support and emotional support during these very difficult, very expensive, emotionally and expensive financial times of life. So absolutely. Yep. We'll wrap this up. Talk to you soon, my friend. Thank you for
another episode. See ya.
Can I have a word with you? See you, Heather.